Funny story about Jon Snip, I was actually in Santa Monica with a videographer, photographer friend of mine, and we saw these two people doing acro yoga right on the turf next to the beach. And we're right next to the pier. And we're like, and actually we recognize Chelsea Kawhi, I want to say that's how you say her last name, because of her hair. And we're like, no way, that's Chelsea Kawhi. And so we went up, and it just happened to be them, and she was doing acro with Jon Snip, and that's what sort of put a name to the work for me. It bridged the gap there that I was missing, because I'd always seen his work, but I didn't know quite who he was. So they were awesome too, the kindest people. That was an awesome experience and an inspiration to make this video. So many of you have probably seen Jon Snip's photos, even if you didn't know that he was the photographer behind the photo. His work has been featured on probably every portrait page that you've seen on Instagram, YouTube, you name it, and he has this very distinct look for his portraits. They're very vibrant, and often he gets right up close and personal with his models and creates this almost surreal look, even though it's a very simple composition that he's doing. So he often creates depth. He gets right up in front, like I mentioned, and uses eyes to tell a story of his photos. And so today, I have a couple photos that are relatively similar to his style, and we're gonna go through the edit to create the look that Jon Snip is known for. We're gonna do it both in Lightroom and Photoshop, and I'm also gonna start by explaining how I took the photo, because how you take the photo to get this look is a huge part of getting that final vibrant and intimate look with your subject. As I'm going through this, I am going to provide you the photos, this photo along with the other three that I didn't edit, in this video, in the description, so that you can follow along and do the same things with me. Or you can try the same techniques on the other images as well. Okay, so as you can see here, I have 5 photos, well, 4 that I took. This is a friend of mine, Belle, who humored me when I was trying to create this look for this shoot. And we have 4 photos here. And right off the bat, I'll say that this one would have been the one that I would have preferred to use because it shows her whole face, and I can show you some dodge and burn techniques and things to incorporate her whole face. However, it is extremely out of focus. And unfortunately, I shot this on a aperture of 4.0 lens, 70 to 200 or 70 to 180 Tamron. So it was not as sharp as I would have preferred. And for the sake of this video, I'm gonna go with this shot because her eyes are in focus, and that's one of the most important things when shooting portraits. So as you can see right here, and actually I'm gonna pull up a reference photo from Jon Snip. Boom. Oops. Boom. So as you can see, prepping this shot was important to create the look that we're going for by the end, right? We have this scarf. We found this scarf at her house that really fits the vibe that Jon creates, and also creates that depth and framing of the subject's face. So it's also got some nice colors in it, which you'll see later really help bring some life to the image, and it just worked out well. Also, Belle and this model in Jon's photo happen to have very similar colored eyes, which will be helpful in creating a similar look here as well. So we will hide that reference photo for now, and I'll just walk you through exactly what I do to begin pretty much every portrait that I start with, and then we'll really try to nail in that Jon Snip look. So first and foremost, we're gonna tackle exposure, contrast, lighting, and everything in between. So as you can see, our histogram is actually pretty dialed. The spike in the shadows is probably just this area right here. We can check, if you press J, you can see if any areas are underexposed or overexposed. It'll tell you if I go here, like that's overexposed. I think it's even exposed before that, but it's a high quality, it's a 60 megabyte or megapixel photo. So pretty high def, but we we'll just start by playing with the exposure, playing with the contrast, and creating some depth right off the bat. So we'll go a little bit of exposure just to even out the photo. Boom. Highlights usually bring a little bit down to bring that detail back in the skin. And then I'll create your classic S curve on the tone curve. Bring these shadows down just a tad and bring these highlights up just to bring that nice sharpness. Literally already we're looking good. So as you can see, this framing and composition prior to the shot being taken is huge to get this look and achieve it with general ease. So with these Sony photos, I shot this on a Sony a7 R2, which is extremely sharp. And like I mentioned, like 60 megapixel photos or something like that. So right off the bat, I'm just gonna soften it a little bit with -10 clarity. And I'll just increase the saturation just a bit. I'm gonna do most of this, because we have so many colors going on here and a lot of reds and yellows, I'm gonna do a lot of the color in HSL sliders or in Photoshop as well. So also in camera calibration. So we covered curves. Sharpening is good, profile correction is good. So I'll be honest, I don't even really know much about camera calibration. I'm sure that I don't use it how it's supposed to be used, but it can help to nail skin tones and reds and yellows and dial those in. So as you can see here, her skin is looking quite a bit red saturated, reddish orange. So often I slide this and then I actually decrease the saturation of the red in the calibration to just bring that skin tone back to normal. If you press the straight up and down tab, I don't even know what the key's called, you can see before and after. Looking a little yellow, so we can slide the green just a little bit away from the yellow. Boom. Perfect, and then we can even reference that photo again. We'll get that nice tan look as we go along here. We can even go up to the HSL slider, go to the reds in luminance, bring that down, and then maybe specifically orange, bring it up. Mind me zoning out as I'm talking, I just get focused. So that's not looking too bad. Already we're achieving that nice, even tan skin tone without oversaturating, and we're looking good. Cool, cool, cool. Sometimes I play with the blue just to see what it does. Okay, going a little bit left is cool just to make those other colors pop. Doesn't make her skin too red. We're staying right on that cusp. And then what I'll do as well, while I'll do a lot of these local adjustments in Photoshop, I'm just gonna increase the saturation of the blues just a bit. See if, even here, you can see it creates this hue around her eye. We don't want that. So we're just gonna increase the blues just a tad to get the blues on the scarf popping. Maybe the aquas as well. See how much that affects her eyes. Okay, not too bad. Same there. Boom. And then we can create local adjustments in Photoshop. I prefer to do all that in Photoshop. You can do it in Lightroom. I just think that I have more control in Photoshop. So I like to create a general base look here and then take it into Photoshop. So honestly, we are looking very good. We'll look at a before and after. We'll do a lot of dodge and burning in Photoshop as well to create this nice focused look. We'll do some skin retouching and all that. So we are good in Lightroom, easy peasy. As you can see, as a breakdown, we just added a little bit of exposure, reduced the highlights, reduced the clarity just a tad, created a nice tone curve, just slight. We didn't go crazy like this, right? If we want to do that, we can add that extra pop in Photoshop as well. I think you have a lot more control there with layers and opacity of layers and whatnot. Didn't touch hues. I think the hues look great. Saturation, we just increased the blues and the greens for the scarf, orange for the skin, luminance a little bit down for the skin. That way we maintain as much detail as possible. And we played with the red green, and blue sliders in calibration just to dial in that skin tone just a bit, give it some color, but not make it too yellow, not make it too orange. That is huge. We are looking good. Okay, so we're gonna export this and bring it into Photoshop. All right, so now we're in Photoshop. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of local adjustments that you can do in Lightroom. I just prefer to do them in Photoshop because with the layers, you have control over, an easier control in my opinion with the opacity fill sliders. You can change the blend mode, all that good stuff, and it's just a little bit more in control. So we're gonna start by clicking Command or Apple, Windows, whatever, you know what I mean. Command J, just to get that, we're gonna keep that base layer as a reference, and we'll also import the reference photo as well, just so we have it in here. Boom, cool. So we can always pull that up. Okay, first things first, I'm gonna go through and do blemish removal. Now, there's not much skin showing, so it won't be too bad on the skin. However, there's also little, I can already see there's little hairs and fluffs on the scarf that we can clean up for a cleaner image. So we're gonna start by doing that. If you press J, brings you to the spot removal, spot healing brush tool. You can do either one, the one where, this one, which you don't need a reference for, or a healing brush tool where you have to reference. For the sake of this, because I'm not being too particular, I'm just going to use the sort of AI version. That way, I can go a little faster. Always trying to be efficient with your workflow as well. Not doing too much when you don't have to. Boom, so we're just gonna go through and fix all of these. I'll fast forward it so you guys don't have to watch this. Okay, right off the bat, oops. You can see, clean that up, makes it less distracting, perfect. We'll even name this layer, for sake of tutorial, spot removal. Okay, now on her skin, again, there's not much showing, so not too much to do here. What I can see is just quite a bit of detail in the under eye, so for the sake of this tutorial as well, I'll show you a very effective frequency separation. So, Command J, we're gonna name this top layer texture, bottom layer color. We're gonna turn off the texture layer, select color, go up to filter, sorry it's cut off. We're gonna select blur, Gaussian blur. What we're gonna do is we're gonna select on a spot with pores, and we want those pores to just go away. Depending on the quality of your image, you will have different values of Gaussian blur here. This one's pretty high because those pores are very high def. So we're gonna go 8.5, turn the texture back on, select it, go to image, apply image, layer, we're gonna select color, blending, we're gonna select subtract. Make sure the scale's at 2, offset's at 128, press OK. Then we're gonna change the blend mode of this texture layer to linear light. As you can see, there's no difference if you turn these layers on and off. That's the beauty of it, because all we just did is separated the texture of her skin with the color. So we are going to turn off the texture layer, select color, yes, it's gonna be blurred. Select B on your keyboard to get to the brush tool, and then Shift B 3 times. That brings you to the mixer brush. These are the settings you want on your mixer brush. You want to make sure that this button is selected so that way your brush doesn't pick up the colors and the color of your photo as you're brushing. Keeps it clean. Wet 7, load 7, mix 7, flow. This depends. You can adjust this anywhere from 10 to 30 to 40% depending on how much you want your brush to really smooth your image. So you can play with that. We're gonna make this a little bigger, and you always want to brush stroke with the direction of the skin. And we're doing this on the color layer still. Always going with the direction. Now, as you can see, I'm kind of dragging from lighter to darker because I want to bring some light, and it's a mixer brush, so it's going to drag those various things. We're going to go like this in the middle, just to smooth out this area of detail, make it a little smaller, and smooth this out. Again, this is a very, very crude frequency separation, but it definitely does the job. As a reference, look at this. We turn that texture back on, and now we'll turn both off, so you can see it really just smooths out that skin layer, right? Makes the lighting a little bit more spread out and dissolved rather than very harsh highlight right here to eye bag shadow. Just creates a smooth look. That's good to me. Perfect. We're good there. We're going to press Alt, Command, Shift, E to create a new layer with everything below it. Alt, Command, Shift, E. Now we are going to get into local adjustments. This is where we really drive home that look, right? And we'll actually bring this up here so we can see. So we're looking for that sharp, vibrant, but natural look, right? So first things first, we can do some work on the eyes. As you can see, very white eye outside of the iris here. And it even looks like she has some, those just look like her eyes. Her eyes have this dark ring around them. Some eyes have that. So we won't create that here because Belle actually has a little bit too. So that's cool. Now, first, so we'll go adjustment layer, hue saturation. We're going to create a low saturation with a little bit of light. Command I to inverse it. We're going to go back to the brush tool. Shift B to get back to our normal brush. As you can see right now, I'm at about 70% flow, 100% opacity, just so it's not super abrupt. A little bit more control. And we're going to make sure our brush is on white. And we're just going to scroll over this area of her eye. Make sure it is a true white. All that spillage around the eye from the blue that's not really there, but was just there because of our saturation adjustment. Boom. Really drive this home. Perfect. Before, after, just cleans up that eye a little bit and gives it just a touch of that surreal look that Jon creates in his photos, right? Cleaning up the little things in the image. Perfect. We will create yet another hue and saturation layer. We're going to increase the saturation to about, we'll go about 20. Command I again to inverse it, the mask, and then we're going to go back to our brush tool and just brush on the eye, just to bring that saturation back here. As you can see, we're getting a nice look. Perfect. We can adjust the saturation a little bit more as need be. That's about good. Remember, you want it to still match the rest of the image. You don't want eyes, oversaturated eyes can make or break an image. It can make it look like a vampire when, you know, it could have been an awesome image, but they look like they've got flashlights in their eyes. So you don't want that. But you just want to create a just tad of surreal look, okay? Boom. Another eye adjustment we'll do. We will go to curves. Boom. And we're going to create an S curve that will adjust in a second. Command I to create that mask. And now we're going to paint that over the eyes. And we're going to see how well it does. So as you can see, it's really darkening the darks and bringing some light to the light areas. Perfect. Bring some more light, just a tad. Boom. See, that looks cool to me. It's not too much because we do have this natural light. Light is evidently a little bit coming from the top left side, if not a little bit, just the top. And we are going to capitalize on that in a second with Dodge and Burn. So eyes are looking good. Skin's looking good. We'll do a quick before and after. Oops. Okay. So that's before from Lightroom, and this is after. I can't get it to do it without the reference image showing, but you guys get the gist of it. Okay, now we are going to create the focus with dodging and burning. So we are actually going to click back on that layer 1, the layer we created after frequency separation. We'll even label this everything layer. Ooh. Oh. Okay. We're going to select that. We're going to press O. This brings us to our dodge and burn tool. We'll make this quite a bit bigger. We are going to have the midtone selected at around, we'll play with this. We want, it always depends on the photo. We want to capitalize on the areas that already have light. And we're just going to do brush strokes. So as you can see, these areas right here already have light. Boom. Boom. We don't want to try to make this light because it just won't quite look right, in my opinion. We want to bring light to the areas that already have light. Just make it a little bit more poppy. Boom. Okay. Shift O to get to our burn tool, around 15%. Again, you can play with that. And we are going to darken the shadows of all of the areas that were shadows. And I'm going to pretend like the light source is right here. So I'm going to, I am going to shadow. We can even go to shadows as well. Boom. All this area down here. Midtones usually creates the best look though. Boom. Like Jon Snip's photo, you notice how the side of the photo, side of the portrait's face is all burned, right? Creates this spotlight effect and a nice drop off of the jaw and the cheekbones. So that's what we're doing here. We are creating this drop off, right? The edge of the subject's face, boom, even at the top. Nice. Already we're creating that nice separation of the highlights and the shadows. We'll go back, Shift O, back to the dodge tool, and we'll just maybe even bring it up to like 25 and just bring some light up here. Really create that boom, and then we'll go back to the burn tool, maybe make it like 40, bigger, and emphasize this shadow down here. Really hide that. Now, this part of her hair is not wanting to burn because of the settings of the dodge and burn tool. So we'll go up, we'll create a new layer. We'll call it vignette. We'll go to our brush tool, flow around 10. Make sure we're on our softest brush, hardness 0. We're going to bring up the, bring this up. We're going to make sure our brush is on black. And we're just going to shade it in right there. See how just that alone separates the bottom of that image? It's not as important for the overall photo. So we're just hiding it and allowing the eyes of the viewer to naturally focus in the middle. We don't need any distractions on the outside. We'll even just burn a little bit down here as well. And a little bit around there. Boom. Okay, yet another before, gosh, sorry about this. Before and after. Look at that dodge and burn and how it focuses on the image. We'll compare this to Jon Snip's. Right? He's got dark, just like ours. He's got darker on the bottom. He's emphasizing the light source up top, creating this nice spotlight effect on the face. Ours is a little bit brighter on the left side than the right, but that's okay. I like it for this look. We could even go as far as creating an exposure layer here, increasing that just a bit, Command-I to get rid of that, and we could just paint on that side to create that even exposure. Boom. Just to brighten up that side of the face a bit. And guys, this is pretty much all I do. This, to me, is an awesome look. We've got that nice saturation, not oversaturated, with a little bit of clarity in the eyes just to make them pop. We've got the dodge and burn separation. The composure was there, did some skin retouching. And that is looking pretty good to me. If I were to be super picky, I'd say that it's a little bit, we would do another curve layer, or actually we could also try, we'll do curves, and just bring that top a little bit down to take away that sharpness, or that sort of shine in the highlights, just a little bit. We'll drag that highlight a bit down. Before, after, just to make it a little bit more natural, a little bit more down. And there you have it. So that's it for me, guys. I'll be doing more of these. If you like them, let me know in the comments if there's anything that wasn't clear, anything you'd like me to touch on more. And yeah, have fun editing, and see you in the next one.